recently read that the original concept for YouTube was a video dating platform where people could upload films of themselves describing the partner of their dreams. This got me wondering, what if our garden was profiled on a dating site? How would it describe itself? What are its attractive features? And what flaws would it own up to? So our September tour is conducted as a sort of dating site application. Welcome to our small garden in Kent, South East England. Would you date our garden? Does size even matter? At 100 square metres, including the patio area, our garden is admittedly considerably smaller than the average UK plot. But statistics are not everything. Our garden may not be generously spacious, but could be described as a generous space. There are plentiful pollen and nectar supplies offered by autumn blooming perennials and annuals for late season pollinators to forage on and forage in. I'm still obsessed with our tuber-grown star dahlias, a continually floriferous pair of plants sharing a large container that have been flowering unceasingly since the first buds opened in the last week of June. Attentive deadheading keeps energy directed into new bud formation. I love the way nature gently embellishes the blank white canvas of every petal with a daub of sunny yellow or chartreuse tones and a sweetly refined staining of raspberry pink prettiness, making each individual flower subtly different from the next, in endless pleasing variations. There's a softness to the beauty of white blooms in low September light. They are harmonising beautifully with Cosmos Cupcakes blush and Abyssinian gladiolus. And despite the cultivar being named Honka fragile, they are not delicate creatures. These plants have survived recent storms and high winds completely unscathed. Our tallest cosmos have suffered a few storm-severed stems in recent bad weather, which is always lamentable, but these annuals are so bloom-laden and bountiful that the loss does not significantly deplete a sense of abundant flowers and nectar banquets for insects. So despite all these wind-torn casualties, and the garden seeming to suffer the force of autumn's blustery days more frequently and destructively than in the past, there are still plenty of blooms for bounty-seeking hoverflies, bees and butterflies. We've made a seasonal change to the tiered plant display, which I enjoyed creating with you in our July video. We've swapped succulents for cyclamen. These are vibrant hybrid cyclamen persicum. They are glowing with punchy pink energy and the heart-shaped leaves are exquisitely attractive, a garrison of deep green shields, each bearing their unique silvered heraldry. The bees are crazy for them. It is said these plants can live for up to 30 years, but they are tender and do need protection when temperatures reach freezing. Once severe frosts pass, they often flower through spring. So, returning focus to the dating site application, our garden would definitely describe itself as small but bountiful, and also as informal, because despite the structural elements like topiary boxwood balls and the symmetry of hard landscaping, by the very nature of its small size, our garden is an intimate space where flowering plants grow in relaxed groupings with a very loosely curated colour scheme. Plants are brushed against on the patio as one passes by, adding a sensory element with tactile foliage, rustling leaves and scent, as well as visual beauty. But there's a fine line between a welcoming sense of informality and a rather unkempt or overgrown appearance. And September is the month when perennials and late season annuals can become very leggy. Foliage may begin to look scruffy, and summer's crisp topiary shapes suddenly sprout shaggy shoots to blur their defined silhouettes. And I realised that's exactly what had happened in this area of the patio container display. Informality was tipping over the line into not chaos exactly, but definitely a sense of diminished design and structure. I needed to reposition the summer pots to achieve a more definitive aesthetic for September. The first change I made was to move our container-grown Salvia Armistad across to the edge of the display. This revealed the boxwood topiary ball that had been completely hidden by the salvia's abundant summer growth, and immediately this created a structural focal point amidst the loose floral tapestry. Here's the arrangement before and after. I could see that to create an even tighter architectural feel, I would need to lightly trim the boxwood ball and the holly standard behind it for a crisper appearance. I also wanted to really emphasise these staggered containers arranged in a slight curve, planted with begonias that deserve their non-stop rose moniker. They have flowered their hearts out for 4 months, and now in September they are really glowing with autumnal tones, even though they are a little storm damaged from recent bad weather. So I will move the pots of Salvia Pink Pong over to the left of the display for an unobstructed appreciation of the begonias. Although this is not sidelining, because I have deep love for hardy perennial Salvia Pink Pong, which has also flowered continuously since June, and is one of the favourite nectar sources of our delightful hummingbird hawk moth visitors. So I moved these salvias and gave the holly and the boxwood a little trim with the shears. Over the years, I have learned not to look at a dissatisfactory area and wonder what plants I need to buy from the nursery to make it look better. Instead, I've realised that probably 9 times out of 10, there is no need to buy a new plant, but rather to appreciate the ones we already have and to explore ways to stage them in a more pleasing composition. And the beauty of containers is that they are endlessly movable to allow for seasonal changes. So here's the rearranged area of the patio before and after. It is still relaxed and informal, but now the dress code is less unruly and more smart casual. late Christopher Lloyd, the much-loved horticultural writer and garden maestro of the legendary Great Dixter, one of the most influential of English gardens, famously declared that the high-maintenance garden is the most interesting. So high maintenance is not necessarily a bad thing, but really all that matters is that the level of garden maintenance matches the time and effort a gardener feels able to dedicate to their plot. Watering the garden through this past summer of drought has definitely been time consuming, but to me it is an enjoyable task. It's an opportunity to get up close to plants and observe their seasonal changes and their visitors. Our most frustratingly high maintenance plant, but one I just can't bring myself to replace, is our boxwood. Box moth caterpillar removal duties are such a chore, and for that reason when I recently purchased 2 seemingly great value boxwood spirals, everybody asked, "Are you mad?" Because I was just adding to the number of plants that are high maintenance in a non-enjoyable way, but they seemed so affordable, and I've always longed for boxwood spirals. So I love them, even though they will need a few more years to become impressively architectural. But there's a backstory about the box that came in a box. When a package arrives marked "handle with care," it's best not to have raised expectations. But I guess that's on the courier, not the supplier. But when one unpackages boxwood plants and discovers they come with free pests, box moth caterpillars, and a couple of chrysalides thrown in for good measure, that's most definitely on the supplier. These caterpillars cause severe defoliation and heartbreak, not just in ornamental gardens, but also amongst European boxwood populations in the wild. They should definitely not be packaged up and sent around the country. These were mature, unmissable caterpillars, not tiny hatchlings. Unfortunately, we immediately recognised the telltale webbing. The horticultural supplier did not have the courtesy to reply to my web form, no pun intended. And I guess the moral of the story is don't be seduced by cheap online offers. Always buy plants in person after a thorough inspection. I'm not sure that caterpillar infestations are quite the romantic subject matter for an online dating application form, but the garden is just being honest. We continue the subject of matters of the heart with a very romantic, celebrated garden. Please excuse my voice if it croaks. I have a pesky cold. This September we revisited the Oudolf landscape at RHS Wisley in Surrey. Wisley is the historic flagship garden of the RHS, the Royal Horticultural Society, located about 25 road miles southwest of central London. It was a characteristically blustery autumn day. The sloping beds, known as the glasshouse borders, were planted by world-renowned Dutch designer Piet Oudolf in his signature new perennial style. It reminded me of swimming through a colourful reef, surrounded by beautiful corals, exotic tendril-waving sea anemones, and gently swaying tropical kelp. The meandering network of paths encourages visitors to wind around beds in a leisurely way, drinking in plant combinations that could translate to borders at home on a smaller scale. The trophy symbol on the plant label means this Hylotelephium, formerly classed as sedum, has received the RHS Award of Garden Merit for exceptional performance in the RHS plant trial beds. The block planting, which groups single plant types together, creates expansive pools of different colours, but also of differing heights, form and movement. You can see how this sparkling mass of anemones animatedly bobs and dances in the breeze. Characteristics specific to different plant species are magnified by the block planting approach. I love the loose, convincingly naturalistic feel of this particular planting pocket and the understated elegance of the heuchera panicles. Oudolf is championed for a naturalistic approach to design, including matrix planting, often using flowing grasses in harmony with flowering perennials, with long-lasting ornamental appeal and similar survival needs that knits into a shared ecosystem above and below ground. Oudolf's landscapes promote resilience to changing climate, and the dense planting offers benefits to wildlife while excluding opportunistic weeds. It's time to rest my voice. Thank you, friends, for joining us, and until next time, we wish you all flowerful times and colour-soothed minds.